Breaking news we're following right now out of New Hampshire. 2 people are confirmed dead, at least 15 others hurt after a circus tent collapsed in the northern part of the state.
It happened in severe weather, rolled into the state. Now we have new video just in from the scene.
This is Lancaster, New Hampshire. Pretty south of the town. Circus went down the Lancaster Fairgrounds.
You are looking at new video taken shortly after that tent came crashing down. Hundreds of people were inside when it collapsed.
And New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan is already responding to this incident on Twitter, letting the public know the State Emergency Operations Center is activated and that the state's disaster behavioral response is heading to Lancaster to provide assistance to all those affected families and individuals.
Now, Lancaster is in the far northern New Hampshire area, actually near the Vermont border, a small town in Coos County, and that's where we find CBS 13's Maria Valvanis.
The state fire marshal just spoke with us a few moments ago. Again, they've confirmed with us tonight that a young boy and a young girl were killed in this tent collapse. Now, the state fire marshal isn't saying whether the two are related, but he did tell us that the young boy and the young girl were here watching the show that was happening in the tent when it collapsed, and they were killed. Also, 15 others injured, and that number could go up. A severe thunderstorm warning had been issued by the National Weather Service for earlier tonight, and the state fire marshal tells us just a few moments ago that there were reports of hail and strong thunderstorms in the area just before the tent collapsed. Now, this is obviously still in the early stages of the investigation. The fire marshal says right now their main concern is getting to area hospitals and figuring out how many people exactly were injured and what the extent of those injuries are. Again, we know now that a young boy and a young girl were killed in this collapse. We'll, of course, continue to follow this story.
Let's go ahead and take a look back right now at the radar at the time this happened. This was right around 5:40 this evening. That strong line of storm started moving in around 5 o'clock this afternoon. You can see just how strong the lightning was. By the way, Lancaster is located right around here in New Hampshire. They were under a severe thunderstorm warning at the time of the collapse, with reports of strong winds, heavy rain, lightning in the area.
That's all I heard, screaming.
Chaos at the circus.
People who were part of the circus just yelled, "Run." Next thing you know, the tent's coming up and over.
A father and his 8-year-old daughter are killed. Dozens more are hurt.
The fact that they lost 2 lives is traumatic, and then so many injured in that there for no reason. It can't be justified.
How trapped victims scrambled to get to safety.
We were screaming because my worst fear was that we were going to be trampled on top of.
And the warnings just before the tent collapsed.
We were just going to the circus to have fun with the family, and next thing you know, the tent's falling over.
We have team coverage, including how trapped victims were able to escape, plus the warnings issued just before this happened. We begin with Katie Sampson, who is learning more about those who died. Katie?
The fire marshal says 41-year-old Robert Young of Concord, Vermont, and his young daughter Annabelle died in this tent collapse. Now investigators are trying to figure out just how much this company knew about the impending storm.
The fact that they lost 2 lives is traumatic.
Officials say a microburst packed with winds reaching up to 90 miles per hour ripped through the Lancaster Fairgrounds, toppling over this circus tent. Dozens were injured, and New Hampshire Fire Marshal Bill Degnan says Robert and Annabelle Young died of blunt force trauma.
Well, you had a collapse of the structure, which included steel infrastructure, which included pipes and poles and steel infrastructure for the events that went on in the circus.
Degnan says the National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning for this area at 5:23 p.m. Monday. He says the circus show, put on by Walker International Events, began at 5:30. The collapse occurred 16 minutes later.
Well, their responsibility is for the safety of their guests, and whether they knew or not that the storm was coming, we'll be looking into that.
Degnan says the company is cooperating.
They're providing all of their employees to us to give us details of everything that went on here during the setup process and the actions up to and including the event that occurred with the wind.
Some community members feel the show never should have started.
It's a shame that it happened in the first place because it should never have happened.
We have reached out to the circus company multiple times for comment and have not yet heard back. The fire marshal says investigators will be here on scene throughout the night and they will be conducting more interviews tomorrow. Live in Lancaster, New Hampshire, Katie Sampson, CBS 13 News. Back to you.
We hope they certainly find some more answers, Katie. Thanks.
100 people were at the circus when that tent crashed down, triggering chaos and panic as people desperately tried to escape. CBS 13's Marissa Bodner is talking with some of them tonight about what they went through.
32 people in all were injured here. Some of them say the emotional scars may be even worse. A pair of sisters tell me they came here for a fun family event and left feeling lucky to be alive.
I'm fine.
First we've seen her.
Gabrielle Lapine is reunited with her parents after her very first trip to the circus turned tragic.
No idea what to expect. I was really excited, actually. Might have been more excited than the kids. Who knew?
She went with her sister Brianna, 3-year-old nephew Carter, and 9-month-old niece Harper. They were sitting on bleachers under the big top at the Lancaster Fairgrounds when it started to rain Monday evening.
We kind of stayed around because I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was.
But then 60-mile-per-hour winds kicked in, and with the tent swaying, they couldn't ignore Mother Nature any longer.
I told my sister, I'm like, okay, we need to leave. Like, let's leave. And we started, everybody started running really quick, and then you had nowhere to go.
Gabrielle says she was holding Carter when a metal pole came crashing down on the back of her neck.
I think if that big pole would have hit him, he probably wouldn't have had a chance. She turned, so a pole hit her instead of him. Sorry. So she saved his life. I mean, she got hurt, but it would have been worse if it had been him.
They were trapped for several minutes in complete darkness, terrified they'd be trampled.
You could hear everybody screaming, a lot of children screaming, lots of children screaming.
Sounds and sights they won't ever forget.
I'm grateful. Someone was watching over us, so for sure. I'm grateful that my children are safe, and they're young enough that they probably won't remember.
Gabrielle can't wait to be reunited with her nephew. But until then, this video will have to do.
That makes me cry.
The sisters tell me their hearts break for the victims who didn't survive, 41-year-old Robert Young and his 8-year-old daughter Annabelle. The girl's mother tells me he died trying to protect her, and words cannot express the loss their family is feeling right now. In Lancaster, New Hampshire, Marissa Bodner, CBS 13 News.
The I-Team has confirmed that the circus company, Walker International Events, did not have the required permit to even set up the tent. I-Team reporter John Chrysos broke that part of the story this afternoon online. He is also live in Lancaster this evening as we continue our team coverage. John?
And Kim, this right here is the permit to operate a place of assembly. New Hampshire law says it is required for any tent that's occupied by 50 or more people. You can see the tent is now collapsed in the distance. You see it there lying on the ground, and we know at least 100 people were in that now collapsed tent. The state fire marshal's office says the circus company never had this permit to put up that tent in the first place. We wanted to walk you through the process here, and what we know is that the permit would have been issued by the local fire department. Before it's issued, in the space, in this case the tent, that space is inspected. Inspectors say they check the exits, the aisles, and the seating arrangements. They can also ask for building plans. But again, Fire Marshal Bill Degnan says no permit was issued, so there was no inspection of the tent.
They just went and set up and did it. I don't know what else to tell you on that.
And what about a building permit? Is that required here in New Hampshire?
This town does not have a building official, so the only time that a building permit would kick in if there was a local ordinance for that.
And as you heard the fire marshal mention, in addition to this permit, some cities and states also require a building permit. Lancaster here in New Hampshire does not. Now, we did some calling around and found for some perspective, Massachusetts does require a building permit for all structures, even large tents like we have here, as does Portland. Again, we want to point out the circus company Walker International Events has not responded to any of our calls. Reporting live tonight in Lancaster, New Hampshire, John Chrysos, CBS 13 News.
All right, important information as this investigation unfolds. Meantime, the circus was scheduled to move on to other spots around New England, including here in Maine and in Vermont. Now, the next show was supposed to be at the Connecticut Valley Fairground in Bradford, Vermont tonight. That show has been canceled. There are also 6 shows set for Maine early next week in Sanford and in South Hiram. Town officials say they haven't decided yet if those shows will go on. And as you've heard, the circus company has not responded to multiple attempts for comment.